on property, you may have like 8 addendums. So you got to have systems in place to manage that paperwork. And there's software for that. You definitely want to have a contact management software program. Okay? You guys know what contact management software is? Okay. There's one that's especially for real estate investors. It's called Virtual RealFlow. Okay, what they do is the system allows you to send communication out to your buyers and to your sellers, upload campaigns of faxes, voice broadcasts, email, to have communication tasks. Like if you've got a virtual assistant, how do you assign them projects? It's all integrated within that one particular software package. And so those things are going to help make your business more efficient. Because if you're in different markets, you got to keep things organized. So you definitely, just to recap, you got to have systems to find deals. You got to have systems to manage your buyers, to cultivate your buyers list. You got to have systems to organize your business. Okay, that's key. Systems, systems, systems. And so that's not all about you. It's all about the systems. Okay. Part of the reason why I mentioned earlier the separation, I mean, there's 2 reasons. Number one, if you want to do 10 deals a month, a lot of people say, I want to do 10 deals a month, I want to make $20,000 per deal, I want to make $2.4 million a year. That sounds reasonable. But when you start getting out there and realizing how many sellers have to be contacted, how many buyers have to be contacted, you know, especially if you're doing it in different markets, how much paperwork there is, you can't do it just as a solo investor. You know, and I found that out the hard way, you know. What other questions that you guys have? Burning questions.
How about license to buy property in other states? How do you go past that?
Well, the thing is, you're buying. Okay, the question was license to buy properties in other states. Now, remember, as an investor, you don't have to have licenses. Now, if you're a realtor, that's one thing. But I'm talking about being an investor, being a principal, not an agent or a broker. So we can do things as investors from state to state as long as we follow the state laws without a problem. Now, if you're practicing law, if you're being a mortgage broker, you have to have licenses within different states.
Well, how about if you're buying multiple properties, one day after a certain amount of property, you're no longer going to be considered an investor. If you're concentrating in a few states and you're buying 3, 4, 5 properties over and over, you're pretty much no longer an investor.
You're talking about under the tax rules or under?
Just real estate rules, you know. In other words, after so many properties that you're purchasing, they won't look at you as an investor. They'll look at you, you know, it's not like one deal. No,
right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? How do you go past that?
Well, I mean, you're no longer an investor. Really, you're the owner or the controller of an investment corporation, to kind of be in theme what we're talking about this week. So it's not so much what you as an individual do, it's what you or your entities do. Okay? So we're not worried about individually what I'm able to do, if there's a limitation on how many deals you are before you're considered a real estate professional versus an investor and things of that nature. So you're not buying these things as an individual. Does that help?
No, but because we're not just buying, according to this, you're going to purchase, you're going to either wholesale it or you're going to now put someone in or maybe sell it, like just flip it. So you're going to do multiple things. So at some point you're going to need, you know, the contracts that come in, the buyer's agent, seller's agent. You know, you're going to do transactions that are going to mirror, you know, real estate, you know, professional.
Okay. Well, that's the age-old question. But as a principal, as a, you know, the question is real estate agent versus real estate, quote-unquote, principal, right? That's what you're getting at?
I'm getting at to make these systems, to put these systems in place, to go do this, or, you know, wherever you see that there are enough properties in other states or wherever you're going to concentrate at. Once you get going, the objective is to make it happen. Mm-hmm. So you're going to go after it aggressively. Mm-hmm. When you do, you're going to find you're going to be mirroring an agent. I happen to be one, but you know, you're going to. I'm just saying, if I'm going to be in another state, how am I not going to get in trouble in that state because I'm not licensed there?
Okay, I understand what you're saying. How you, in your particular situation as a realtor, or as a non-realtor investor?
Well, let's say a corporation, can they do that now? Do they have to have a division that's real estate? Because let's say it's under the corporation, you're still going to mirror the act of a broker.
Yeah, let's look at it from two different perspectives. And number one, don't get too complicated. You've got special situations because you're a realtor. Now, any market you go into, you have to be aware. That's why I always say, make sure you get a contact like with one of the local real estate investors groups. You don't want to go in and violate any kind of laws. So you definitely want to have that local connection, having that research done, say in Texas, to figure out exactly where the lines are drawn. Like most states, being a wholesaler, putting a property under contract, putting earnest money down, and then assigning that contract or doing a double closing is not the same thing. Now, it may mirror in some respects what an agent does, or in cases of a net listing, which you may be familiar with, where you see that there's similarities. But not to get too complicated, the bottom line is check the state laws you're working in. But what we do as investors sometimes can be construed by agents as what they do, but it's not. And so, but to be careful, whatever market you're in, be aware of what's going on. I mean, that's the bottom line. It's just like you don't want to be, like in certain markets like Texas, the lease option laws are a lot more stringent than they are in Georgia or Nevada or Florida. But those are things that you need to be aware of in each individual market.
And for this type of virtual business, who would you contact in each state to find that out? Who would you contact?
In terms of the states, like I keep going back to the RIA groups, because they're a group where they're in business, whether nonprofit or for-profit, in order for them they educate, they enlighten, they inform investors.
RIA group? How do you spell?
I'm sorry, Real Estate Investors Association. I'm sorry, I'm just so used to saying that. There's a National Real Estate Investors Association that's online. There's local groups. There's one I'm actually speaking at next week in Vegas. They're all over the country. They're either for-profit or profit, and they're a resource center for investors. That's important. Go ahead. There's a gentleman in the back.
It was along that line. It was kind of my understanding. I think it was a good question about, are we talking about the IRS? Because that comes under that thing. You're either an investor or you're not, and it kind of depends on how many. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't see it any different as, say, a land developer. I could go in and buy 1,000 acres in any state, mm-hmm. subdivide it. Now, it may come down when I'm ready to sell those lots that I may need to use a local realtor that mm-hmm. could follow under the states and make it legitimate that way. Mm-hmm. But as a developer, I'm just a private person doing business.